Well, good morning. Morning here. And praise the Lord. In this country, we get to have one. Isn't that great? We live in the United States of America. And we can have our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ with us 24/7, 365. From the time we're born until the time we depart this earth. And this video is going to be about acknowledging the significance of the metric that shows people are finding out about this YouTube channel by searching verbatim U.S. history, and just kind of my thoughts on that. And I want to go into a little bit about some of the major reasons why that is, why that can be, facts that can be attributed to the story of me and my family, I'll put it that way. Particularly my dad. But I want to say, I'm trying to do like a good optimistic look at it, and I'm trying to also multitask. I'm going to go get something historic. Tobacco. Praise the Lord. I have a little bit of money, just enough to get that, maybe a drink, get orange juice or something. And I have a busy day today. So I'm multitasking, and this is kind of like, I already know a talk that I'll be having to have probably a lot in the future, and this is just kind of like a first rundown of it. And I thought I would go ahead because it was on my mind a lot. I didn't sleep much last night, and my last video, or it's still uploading, it's going to come right around this one. It's called Drugs, Dreams, and the Deadliest Sins, and it's kind of a grittier video. I think it's a good look at the reality of what homeless people have to go through. And I talk about my drug use. I talk about surviving after I had to leave the homeless shelter in the middle of the night. It's a historic video. For me, it's kind of a milestone. I tried to do my best on. Definitely the intro I really liked. So check that out. Oh, look at that. It's almost a whole cigarette. Yeah. But here in California, these things are expensive. And I need to quit, but not today. Tobacco is the one thing I can't live without. And I'm from Winston-Salem, where Winston and Salem brand cigarettes are made. Camels are made, Cools are made there. All cigarettes. If it ain't Marlboro, and ain't Newport, it probably comes out of where I'm from. Where I'm from is also the hometown of Krispy Kreme. So I'm not from a real healthy place. But, okay, going into, another reason I had this, wanting to do this video. Because Fabrizio, remember him from Titanic? Fabrizio Del Rossi. Well, I've always felt like Titanic is kind of like the allegory of my life. I've always felt like no matter what situation I'm in, I can usually throw it into a Titanic perspective. I've never had a Fabrizio person in my life before, but this cat is like living in the bunk bed underneath me. It's so much like Fabrizio. It scares the shit out of me. And it scares me because it makes me feel like I'm about to die. But I also had the same kind of thing. It happens every now and then. It was like this time last year when there was that Titanic on the news because that submarine imploded. Remember that? It was like every day on Energy Cooper, like all 3 hours. It was like nothing that new happened. It was just that same submarine. And we were talking about all the people, and I was just like, I felt like I was about to die. Titanic to me is a significant movie for this reason. And I'll get into the point of the video. So, but Titanic was the movie we saw, and we saw this movie late. We saw it at a private screening with our friend Natalie's dad. He was the manager of the movie theater, and we saw this in like July, I think it was July. We saw this in July of '97, and this was like the Valentine's Day movie, right, that year. So we saw it incredibly late, but we saw it at a private showing. It's like me, my mom, Natalie, maybe her mom, and Nicholas, and we watched this movie. My brother was there, but before the movie, I was still a kid. We were still in a marriage, first one, and that later at night is when my parents separated. So it was really pretty much kind of like going into the beginning of the movie, I was still a kid, and then going out of the movie, I immediately entered more of an adulthood. Traumatic divorce, survival situation, and it ain't never been the same since. So having Fabricio as my bunkmate, it is he looks just like him, and his personality is kind of like him. And I like the guy. He's really friendly. I'm really glad to have a friendly face, and someone who, is just upbeat and positive. But it's just like, damn, you look cool like Fabrizio. But that aside, walking to the 7-Eleven, it's just supposed to be down the street. So, getting to points about why this is all U.S. history, or what are the facts that would be important to know, that would be like, okay, he's got a point there. Like, those are the kind of topics. I am just kind of multitasking. This is my first rundown of it. But there are some things, like either I know these things, but I know that like you don't know these things. So it's like in that mindset. And like later on, if I'm ever on a podcast or something, this will all get rolled into much more easily digestible information. And so I could say the very first thing would be, what would the very first thing be? Well, it would probably be, I want to say, I'm sorry, I'm just kind of taking a while to get started here, but looking at like local history, and then looking at like U.S. history. What makes like this American history? Me being homeless this long is not American history. My dad being child molester is also not American history. That does not qualify. It's just bad things, right? It's just bad things, but you layer that on top of like my uncle's portrait being in a U.S. Senator's office, Joe Manchin, U.S. Senator from West Virginia, United States Senator. That is historical. You add in that I was homeless in Wilkesboro, North Carolina, like probably less than 5 miles. I don't know exactly. I haven't looked up exactly where I was, and exactly where his birthplace, particularly in Wilkesboro, was, but it wasn't far. From Robert C. Byrd, the longest serving senator in United States history. Also, we have to add in my dad's history with really starting his career in Wilkesboro in the 1980s. It goes back more than just I was randomly in Wilkesboro. Wilkesboro has an attachment to my family, predating my experience there. We were also there. We also have a childhood history in Wilkesboro, but basically the fact that I became homeless for the second time in Wilkesboro, and then the fact that the first person that saved me was a boomer. And it was a friendly boomer, someone I like a lot, my friend Harold. Harold was a Vietnam veteran, and he had survived the Atlanta Greyhound station, and just the tie-in with the Vietnam War in general, and my dad, but namely the fact that he's not been really respectful of veterans by taking more than $20,000 for the Raynell, West Virginia Run for the Wall mural, the last city the veterans on the motorcycle ride stop at overnight before they get to Washington, D.C. is Raynell. And the fact that my dad took the money, that is significant. The fact that he is friends with Senator Joe Manchin and Governor Jim Justice, two people who should absolutely be like, you should be getting that mural done. Or like should have been doing that before he became a child molester, right? That's significant. My dad's friends with the governor. His whole relationship with Governor Jim Justice, I believe, goes back to like 98, 99, somewhere in there. But Governor Jim Justice is significant, becoming U.S. history, not just for being the governor or being West Virginia's first billionaire, but he owned the Greenbrier Resort, where there was a bunker classified for all United States Congress was supposed to go to this bunker in the event of nuclear war. Jim Justice owns that property, and that's where my dad told art. So those tie-ins. Also have to understand, my dad was in the Andrew Wyeth Gallery in Chatsworth, Pennsylvania. That's an extremely hard place to get into. He got into it. A lot of people want to get into it, but he got into it. And so that alone is also extremely historical. And that gives, like, you go to, like, you search Andy Wyeth and learn how big a deal he is. So, for those reasons, those are some of the major ways that just pop out to me immediately on, like, how this is a significant thing. We could also look at, like, Welch, West Virginia is the home of the oldest U.S. Veterans Day Parade in U.S. history. That's where my dad was starting the work on this mural that he never completed and took the money. But then you also contain more like state or local history that does add significance to it. Like when he started doing the first mural, well, I think the first one was the Welch in the 1920s. When he started doing that, the mayor was Mayor Martha Moore. Mayor Martha Moore is the longest serving mayor of Welch, in the city with the oldest Veterans Day Parade in U.S. history. And I think when Mayor Martha Moore saw my dad in like 2008, 2007, 2006, she saw someone that I think was a good person and that had tried to recover well, but he was just on the precipice of doing more bad things, and she didn't know that, and she passed away. So it was kind of like, you can't really blame the city of Welch or her for what's happened. It's all on Tom, but that's what happened. I'm going to go in here. We'll continue this talk in a little bit. Okay, I'm back. And just a block away, I'm next to the Apple store. And just being where I am is somewhat significant. Being close to an Apple store, even though I can't go in, it's closed still. It's early in the morning. I don't think it's even 7 o'clock yet. And they got breakfast going on, so I had 7-Eleven, nothing historic, but I had I had a iced coffee and an apple fritter. I got my cigarettes. I'm gonna smoke them. I have to multitask. Don't want to really smoke in this video, but I do need to try to get my Wi-Fi. Apple Store has the best Wi-Fi around, and I need to upload a video. It's uploading right now, and it's just good for me to be here smoking and wanting to talk about more historical stuff. So, other historical things. Well, my dad is tied in with like all of the West Virginia politicians. He knew Ray Hall. Pretty sure he knew Rockefeller. I don't know if he knew Robert C. Byrd directly. They may have had some sort of interaction. Robert C. Byrd connection to my dad directly would have been minute directly. But just the fact that I was homeless, close to where he was born, and my dad's connection to his successor, Joe Manchin, and the fact that Michael was painting in Joe Manchin's office, and has been since weeks after I defeated homelessness the first time. When I defeated homelessness, my dad made me homeless 15 days after McDowell County, West Virginia, was per capita #1. No place voted for Donald Trump more. Just 15 days before my dad made me homeless. So that is also going to count. Like I said, this is the first time I've really ever kind of done this talk. Trying to piece all these parts together in a quick conversation. We'll do some more in a minute. I just walked around the corner here. This is a beautiful area. Whatever it's called, Union Square or something. I like it. There's a cheesecake factory over there. It's not historic that I know of. But other things that are historic. The Hollow documentary. Very much historic. It was recent history, but it was historic. It was a big deal for my dad. Big deal for Ole McMillan, the filmmaker who made it. Stayed at my dad's house. And it's a big deal for U.S. history because it was one of the only films to ever be screened at the United States Capitol. So it's a big deal. My dad, I don't think, was even knowledgeable he was going to be nominated for an Emmy when he was in it. I think that kind of came after the fact. He wasn't really trying to be nominated. It was just, it happened. But that's historic, right? Not everybody's dad is nominated for an Emmy. Also adding to like more of my history, Elaine McMillan Sheldon failed to demonstrate care when I was homeless the first time. When I've been homeless the second time, the entire time, the last interaction I had with her was in like November or December, and she had read all these messages and never said a thing that is historic, that is damaging to Elaine. She should have demonstrated care by now, and she never did. So she can only play catch up now, and it's already significantly a bad thing for her. It's unfortunate, but University of Tennessee is where she works, and University of Tennessee is dealing with her. My dad's house in general is historic. It's historic because it is the largest home in the poorest place in America. That ties into my story because that's where I was made homeless from. That's where I was returned to in 2023 where there was no water. But specifically, that house was built is on Ficken Drive, and Dr. Ficken was a doctor in the local community. He delivered babies and was, I think, just a general practitioner and stuff, and he was known in the local community as being a doctor who lived in that house for a long time. But before that, the house was built in 1919 by a Mr. Houston from Great Britain. And he built that house on top of a cliffside, and next to it, down below, is the Houston Coal Company store, which I believe is on the National Register of Historic Places. My dad wanted to get the house on there. It's a chance of getting on there now. I don't know. I don't really think my dad's house, I think it's a symbol of oppression. It was built to be tear down on people as they were coal mining in the 20th century. And I don't view it as something that's really should be celebrated or, idolized, or I don't like it. Okay? How big is my dad's house? It's big. It's like about 6,000 square feet. It has 2 kitchens. It has 2 different upstairs. It has 10 bedrooms. Have you ever seen an oil furnace in someone's backyard? The tank that the oil furnace needs, it has 4 of those inside. It has the largest furnace available. What I've been told, the largest furnace available for residential use in the United States of America. How my dad acquired the house, getting the mural in the 2008 for the Great, well, it's the 1920s, about the Great Depression. As we're entering a recession, my dad was awarded a contract to do that mural. He completed it. It's right next to Ed Shepard's place. Ed Shepard is a World War II veteran, and I don't know if he would be considered U.S. history, but he did have a very long life. He did have a very big role in McDowell County. He is in a Hollow documentary. He's an American hero. And, proximity of my dad's mural to Ed Shepard and their relationship is important. And I knew Ed Shepard, liked him a lot. That mural was archived in the Library of Congress already, years ago. So all this history now is being made, I think is significant. My dad completed also the largest mural in the state of West Virginia, the Martha Moore Park mural. That's the one that he's featured in when he's completing it in the Hollow documentary. Those things are significant beyond my lifetime. I didn't have much to do with them. My dad did. There's a lot of congruent, different stories, different people. I'm trying to think of some other things. When we did the Princeton mural in 2002, the first mural kind of after 9/11 in West Virginia, commemorating the service of all veterans. Maybe not U.S. history, specifically on the token of the Wyeth Gallery and things like that, but still a big deal for West Virginia. trying to think of some other things real quickly off the fly that would be considered major hallmarks of U.S. history. My dad painted the largest church. No, he painted the oldest church in America. I think it's in Buchanan, West Virginia. No, Buchanan, Virginia. For the Old Dominion state, the first state there was. He painted the oldest church in America, and we put it on our Christmas card. And I think my dad intentionally painted the oldest church in America. He could have found plenty of other churches that would have been great to paint, but I think he specifically picked that one because it is the oldest church in America. So, in my dad's, quest to become more famous than Rosa Parks or whatever, I think that was a big deal because he was not already really, that was in like 2018, I think, 2019, 2018. He'd already made me homeless. My dad had a show in Williamsburg, Colonial Williamsburg, in the early 90s, he did. And then, I want to say to like the Our Town collection and the prints that I'm in the 90s, does that make U.S. history? Not really. I don't think it's something that the Wyeth Gallery saw as like, oh, it's a big deal. I don't think they did. I think for Surry County and Mount Airy, North Carolina, it was part of their rebirth, and there was nothing else like it, nothing else going on. And it is what people who know me and my family, that's what they know. And it's significant. Once upon a time, and the history that's about to come out with that, it might not reach U.S. history level, but it is significant to the local area. Is divorce attorney Sarah Stevens U.S. history? Arguably, maybe. I mean, she's a divorce attorney. She represents the new millennium in Mayberry. I'm not the only one in Mayberry that has had a very unexpected, not poised, not supposed to be this way kind of life. There's a few other examples. I don't want to get into them right now. But Mayberry was, perceived as the world's best place to grow up. That's what we were kind of told. It is where the Andy Griffith Show got its inspiration, where Andy Griffith was from. I grew up a 15-minute walk from my boyhood home and his boyhood home, a 15-minute walk apart. So those are all some reasons that I can say real quickly, and we'll probably, continue this talk and do another video, and I'll rehearse this and get better at it. But those reasons right there would be reasons that this is becoming U.S. history, and the whole magnitude of how outlandish, negligent, and irresponsible all of the boomers from West Virginia have been to not contain my father so far is also, I think, a qualifier for being U.S. history. It is that bad of a situation. Also, we could even look at the kid is of immigrant, non-English speaking parents. Believe the father is at war at Ukraine. He's from Ukraine, and they're, so the fact that it's not just any kid, it's a kid whose, family is fighting for their freedom in the war in Ukraine may also be significant, a qualifier for this to be U.S. history. So those are some things I could think of. And then also with like my mom. So my mom and dad have been divorced since 98, and they're really Mars and Venus. They really don't have much to, parallel or they don't run the same. They're two different people. They were married, now they're not. Okay? They have two things in common, me and Drew. My mom, I don't think, has any significant U.S. history qualifiers, but when you look at, like, the marriage with Steve and, like, what I posted on Facebook last night about how, like, she's had this home in Mount Airy. I'm getting so loud. This is getting so loud over there. But, like, my mom had this other home. She still has a home in Mount Airy. I am still technically, kind of in a way, homeless from Mayberry. And, I said last night, like, it was a kind of continuation, her second marriage of the first one, where she just kind of ran away from her problems. The second marriage, she went on a lot of vacations, a lot of to the Caribbean and places like that. And like if she, remember like Lacey and Scott Peterson? Well, I do definitely remember there was a time when my mom was going to go on a vacation somewhere down there, and she was like, if we never come back or something happens to me, you go to the safety deposit box. And she seemed to be fearful that like something was going to happen, something like normal wasn't going to happen down there. If she wanted to come back, well, it was definitely strange. But there is this precedent or this situation with Steve meeting my mom at Charles de Gaulle Airport, or supposed to have been. I think she was flying from Saudi Arabia and he was flying in. I don't know what the purpose of this trip was. Some last-ditch attempt to save their marriage or something, but he was definitely caught in Charles de Gaulle Airport with the gun and bullets, and they sent him back to the United States. So, like, my mom has this weird, eccentric oddities, and like, Nora sleeping with Uncle Mike, who's the guy in the painting that Senator Manchin has. That's not historic. It fits into the Bette Midler narrative of what West Virginia is, so we're going to amplify it. But I don't think that is particularly U.S. history. It's just my mom has this, like, she's not a normal mom. So all of the craziness that's followed around her, marrying a Saudi Arabian arms dealer, forgetting everything, is also adding more than taking away. If she was just like a normal suburban Floridian housewife, what she has been different from that does add something, some flair. Maybe it's just some sensationalism, but yeah. I don't know what that lady wanted, but that was all I was going to say. So yeah, that would be my first round of like how these things and events do have some merit in becoming U.S. history. Oh, and let me add here, very important for me to add this. I never wanted to become U.S. history at all. I have said many times on Facebook, if I could have just stayed at Dish after my promotion, got trained and not have been in that COVID environment, not have to work 16 more jobs without a network, if I could have stayed and worked at Dish forever and dated a Texan, I would have. Now, fun fact, the Man of Dreams, technically, was born in Houston, so maybe I am dating a Texan. He's pretty much Colorado. But also U.S. history, let's just say he's from Western boomers. They're probably a big deal. So whether our relationship ever continues, whether one of us dies before it can, whatever, the fact that I wanted to marry him for 4 years, I mean, he's important to me. So whatever happens to his family, it's important to me. Always will be. Put it that way.